Greeting friends, Jared here with Fanboys Forever, and today I'm very excited to have a very special close look at the new Bluto and Popeye 2-pack from Mezco 112 Collective. It's called the Stormy Seas Ahead Deluxe Box Set. Now, I've really been anticipating this because honestly, the Popeye figures that Mezco does are among my very most favorite, if not my favorite figures that the company even produces. So when they announced that there would be this special box set, and this is the first and so far only way to get Bluto, I was thrilled. So I can't wait to show you what's inside. Now, it's worth noting that I did get one of these little Metzits with it. And just so that we can see what that looks like, here he is right here. It's just the little gold version that comes with a boombox. I believe that's like Street Gomez or something. So that's just something that you get with it. Let's go ahead and take the briefest look at the packaging. It is worth noting that for this release, Mezco has kind of abandoned their kind of dark and almost museum-like look for a lot of their packaging, and we've gone with a much more bright and primary color look, and it's definitely meant to look like the original comic strips. You even have the cool color gradient in the background. You have the title of the set, the Stormy Seas Ahead Deluxe Box Set with Bluto and Popeye. On the sides, we have some of the artwork right here from the comic strip. Absolutely love that. And on the back, we have all of this cool artwork with all these neat onomatopoeias that show up everywhere. So absolutely love the art on this. And it's certainly very different than anything, really, that Mezco has given us in the Mezco 112 Collective line. This would be beautiful to display on a shelf. All right, we do get a ton of stuff in this release. So it's really difficult to sort through it all, but let's start by just looking at Popeye himself. Now, I'm going to start by actually having him in his most unique look that I think we can get for this set, and so that we can have something a little different, okay? And it is Popeye's rain gear. Check this out. Now, it's funny because this, it definitely makes him a very strong variant to the other two Popeyes. And just for comparison's sake, usually, that's something I don't do till later, but it is very important, I think, in this case, because this is our third version of Popeye. Let's bring out our other two versions, and you can see just how unique that this guy is, especially once you put all of his rain gear on. In some ways, he's like a fusion of the two previous Popeyes with more accessories. So I think that they did a good thing by choosing this particular version. Of course, we will show you what's under the raincoat, and it's quite a big variant of the other two versions as well. But till that point, let's just go ahead and look at the coat itself. We can see that it's just kind of a pleather, sort of shiny, yellowy coat. It does almost look kind of wet the way it is. You can see Popeye's also got his rain hat up here. Has a really long brim up here on the back. I suppose that's to keep the water off of your neck. You can also do some other things with that hat. You can bring the brim down, but it almost looks too big on him that way. See, if I bring it down, you can do that. Of course, then you can kind of futz with it a little and bring it back and kind of make it almost look like a hood. But I know that there's probably better ways to do this, and people much smarter and more talented than me will figure that out. But for now, I think that it looks best like this, and I think that that does the job nicely. So let's go ahead and let's see what's under the coat and the hat. And of course, here's Popeye once he gets home from the harbor. You can see he's got rid of the coat, and we're just going to put his peddler's hat on real quick. It's worth noting that this hat is either it's the head itself, but I think it's the magnet in the hat is much less strong than the ones that we've gotten previously. It still holds pretty well. You can still shake it around and it doesn't do too much. You can hold it upside down and it doesn't go anywhere. But you'll notice that when I shook it, it kind of shakes a little. That's because the magnet isn't nearly as powerful. So it doesn't hold as tightly to his head either, so that's a little frustrating. I would like it to be a little more flush to the head, but it works just fine as long as you kind of keep it up a little bit. So let's go ahead and look at the sculpting on the figure. The sculpting is just as strong as it's ever been in the previous releases, so we won't spend a very long time on this particular head sculpt. Of course, as we go through, we're going to switch up the head sculpts and keep things a little more, keep things varied as we go. We can see that Popeye does have a terrific amount of detailing in the paint work for this head. Of course, if you have the other previous Popeyes, then you know all about how great this work is. I do think it's slightly refined here, and it's a little less exaggerated and more realistic. You can see Popeye even has some freckles and age spots that are very subtle that's on the top of the head. There's also some great wash that's going on in the wrinkles, and even the corncob pipe looks really, really good. We can see that that same detail work goes around to the side. This is almost of the quality of what I would almost call a bust that just happens to be on an action figure's posable body. So I'm very impressed. I still think it's Mezco's very best head sculpt that they've done for any character, and I just think that it speaks volumes about them as a company and really about their love for Popeye, which I think has been obvious for a lot of years, and longtime fans of Mezco will know that Mez's love of Popeye is pretty legendary with the previous products that he's done even. Looking at the rest of the figure visually, we can see all sorts of great things going on. We can see that Popeye has a blue shirt this time around. Of course, the first release had a black shirt with a red top, and then the MDX after that had a full-on white sailor's uniform, but this is the blue variant. Of course, Popeye looked this way quite a few times in the original comics and in some of the old cartoons, so I think that that's a great thing that they've went ahead and done this variant. Popeye's had a myriad of looks in the almost century, I suppose, that he's been around. We can see that he has his anchor tattoo right there, and then there's the back flap of the shirt. You can see the shirt has almost a denim-like texture, but that was like the original version. You can see that he has a white, little bit of a rolled-up sleeve right there. See the arms are huge, just as the other previous versions were. Of course, it's shared sculpting. Great musculature, and of course, there's all kinds of great freckles on the arm, which I really appreciate because, you know, it happens. Also, we go on down. Popeye's pants are a little more, I guess, denim-y here than they were in that MDX version where he was all white, and I definitely like the feel of these a little bit more. You can see we have lots of stray threads on this, and I'll probably trim those out, but I did want to show you how it came out of the box before I did that, so that I can be totally upfront about some of the issues that the figure has. Usually, and I've done this in the previous Popeye figures, I've gone through and trimmed all those stray little threads, and usually I just use like a pair of nippers that you would use like on a model kit to do that. Of course, Popeye has some very detailed shoes. We can see that they have all kinds of weathering, and it looks like they are definitely well worn. Even the bolts there on the sides of the laces are detailed. And of course, the bottoms of the shoes are just pretty well flat. So not much going on there. Overall, it's as beautiful a representation as it ever was for Popeye. And I think it just oozes love and admiration and, of course, respect for this classic character. Of course, in the interest of keeping things interesting as we move along, we do have the one totally brand new head sculpt for this set. And I think it's appropriate that this is the one that comes in the set with Bluto, because this is Popeye's battle-damaged head. This is when he is beat up by Bluto, and I think it's great. Like I said, it came in this set because this is definitely, it's going to be with Bluto that Popeye sustains this level of damage, and I think this is terrific. This might be the best Popeye head in the entire set, and you can tell that it's a whole other level. I mean, the other heads are amazing, but this is really getting into some next level stuff right here. You can see that Popeye's jaw is swollen. There's little scratches in it. There is kind of a purpley black eye right over here. The bridge of his nose has been busted. There's blood coming out of the bottom. Even his ear has caught a hit somewhere or another. And if we take this just regular sailor hat off, which is also an included hat, and it's also magnetically bound to the figure, we have a giant welt on his head. So Popeye has definitely run afoul of Bluto a couple of times at the docks. This is terrific. This is sculpted in. It's not just paint work. And just the head itself is amazing because it's incredibly expressive. I don't know about you, but if I saw this coming at me, you know, I would probably think twice about taking this guy on. It's a head that basically says, I love to fight, bring it on, we're not done yet. And we'll switch out the hand for this, and it's very easy to do so, like on all Mezcos. This figure comes with like 5 alternate hands, aside from his basic fists. And, you know, I'm not one of those guys that's going to show you what every hand does. But you can see that we have just an open gripping hand. And we're just going to put the crushed spinach can in there. We'll get into that in accessories here in a little while. And I love this look where Popeye has kind of had the stuffing beat out of him. He's kind of down on his luck, and he's just about to give Bluto what for. So I really like this. I think I would hesitate to use the word epic. You know what? It's epic. It's really awesome. You can get some really cool like forced perspective shots right here of Popeye like getting ready to take everybody out. I just love this, man. Like this is intense. This head is I hesitate to say it's worth it alone for this head, but you know what? If you're a crazy Popeye fan like me, yeah, it's worth it. It's worth noting that Popeye also includes one more head, and this is the pretty much expressionless, just kind of neutral head that we've seen before. So this is something we're familiar with the previous releases. Nothing necessarily new here. It's painted apparently better than I've seen it before, with even more detail and just love and care. And so I definitely think that this is one of Mezco's. And of course, it just further celebrates one of Mezco's very best sculpts ever. We also get this cool little thing, and it's just a boggin. This doesn't have a magnet piece in it because it hugs so tightly to the head, and it's just sculpted to fit on any of the heads that you have with the set. I suppose it would still fit over the battle damage one, even with the big welt on the head, so that shouldn't be a problem. But this is terrific. Of course, the only difference between this and the first head that we've shown is that this is just a closed-mouthed version of Popeye and not one that you can put one of the pipes into. All right, let's talk about articulation a little bit with Popeye. And we're not going to spend very long on this at all because I think you guys already know what's up with Popeye's articulation. You can see that the neck itself is kind of on a ball joint, so you can get some really far down poses, and then you can go pretty far back. Once you raise the chin up, the neck looks too long, so you got to be aware of that. You can also, of course, get some good side-to-side range. The neck itself will actually flex that way too, so Popeye can really get all sorts of great head range, and this is the kind of range that other figures only dream about. Of course, Popeye's cartoon proportions help him out quite a bit in that category. Of course, he can go all the way around, and the arms can raise up to just about 90 degrees. I don't want to force it any more than that. You can take the arm up with the shirt, that is, about that far, and that's about as far as you need, but you could go further, but I don't like to stress the material. He can go back as far as you need, but I don't want to stress the material any more than that. He can also put his elbow up this far. It's a single jointed elbow, but it does the job, and it's pretty understandable considering Popeye has these giant missiles for arms right here. Of course, he does have a swivel there, so you can take it all the way around, so you can slap the stuffing out of Bluto right there. We also do get a hinge at the wrist, so his hand can go up and down as he is delivering said slappings. And of course, his hand can spin all the way around. Popeye does have a diaphragm joint right there, so you can get some good motion. You can also rotate that slightly. And at the waist, we get slight rotation and a slight up and down. Combined together, you can get some really good posing this way. And you can even have him go back quite a bit. So I actually think that there's plenty of range there. You can even rock it side to side if you wish. Next up, looking at the legs, we can see that Popeye's legs can go up about that far. It can probably go further if you get it just right, but the pants can kind of restrict it. We can see that he can also do the splits about that much, but once again, the pants are restricting it. If it wasn't for that, he could probably do more. We do have a double jointed knee right here. He can almost kick his own butt. And we do have a thigh swivel. And down here at the shoe, this is probably the least amount of articulation in the figure. He does have a hinge, so he can go up only a little bit. It can't really lock any good positions. It can swivel, and there's a little bit of an ankle pivot. Yeah, actually, the ankle pivot's pretty good. It's really just this hinge that can't do a whole big lot. But you can hold wide poses if you need to, and I suppose that's the whole point of it. Popeye includes a terrific variety of accessories. You're going to get a tray full of pipes for Popeye to smoke. And with this head sculpt that I have in right now, it's the one with the gritted teeth. And I'll just show you how this works for anybody who doesn't know. You can take that out, and that just has a hole in it. You can just put the pipe in there. Be careful about this. Don't force it in. Some people end up forcing it in, and then it breaks off inside of it. And then there's all sorts of trouble about how to get the broken peg out. So that's definitely something you'll want to avoid. Next accessory that we already looked at was actually this can of spinach. And I really love the detail on this thing. I like all the rust on the can. We've seen it before, but I like the sliminess of the spinach, so that's neat. Popeye also comes with this kind of gnarly looking hook. This might be something more Bluto, I guess, would use against Popeye because it's so large, but I thought it was important to note that it's just a weapon. It's really neat looking. Popeye comes with a really cool bag that he would take to the service with him, and I love the details in this thing. You can see we just have a vinyl graphic on the front that says Popeye, and it's this navy blue color. We can see that this is in great contrast to the previous version of Popeye's bag that we got. So it's nice to have a new version. Just like that old version, you can pull these strings shut and Popeye can wear it on his shoulder if he needs to. We also can see that this opens up, and I have placed some of Popeye's accessories inside for us to have a look at. One of Popeye's most important accessories is going to be his unbroken can of spinach. And I like how generic and kind of old school this looks. It's just a plastic piece with, it looks like a sticker applied to it. But I still like all the little detailing and all the wash work on the can. That's nothing new. And of course, this is Popeye's beautiful compass accessory. You can see all that fine detail and paint work on the inside. Everything is sculpted just very intricately. I really don't know how they do tiny little pieces like this and get them to look so good. You can even see that there's sculpted detail on the actual compass lid itself, and yes, it does close. And we can actually see that there's a really cool anchor right there on the top of it. This is one of the neatest little things he comes with. And of course, Popeye comes with his spyglass. You can see it starts out like this. You just pull it, and of course, you can get it to extend that far. It's transparent there and transparent on the back. I really love the way that he looks when you're posing him with this thing. Popeye also does come with his pea coat, and this thing is kind of a pain to put on, or at least it was on the original version, but it is really nicely detailed. I love all the buttons on it and everything, and so that's another nice accessory that he comes with. It's something we've seen before. Popeye also comes with a stand. I like this. It goes very nicely with the other Popeye stands we've gotten, just a little bit of a color variation. And he comes with a big flight arm. Usually I laugh about these being included with characters that don't fly. But honestly, when you're dealing with a super exaggerated cartoon character like Popeye, it might make sense for him to be kind of flying around and you kind of having him being propelled in different ways. Of course, I've seen Popeye move his arms so quickly in those old Fleischer cartoons that he's basically propelling himself and flying of his own accord. So it's not really out of the question for Popeye to fly. So it's something you could do. This is one of those sweet spot variants. They don't happen very often. A lot of the times when you're on the third or fourth version of a character, it just seems redundant, or it's kind of out there, or it's just the same thing over and over again. Not this time. This Popeye not only works as a really nice variant to our other two that we've gotten previously, but it also works as kind of just an original Popeye if you want it to be or need it to be. If this is your very first Popeye figure, it works very well for that too. So it can kind of be what you want it to be. And I think it works beautifully for that. So very nice. Love this little Popeye figure that we got. But of course, that's probably not the star of the show for this particular set. Let's move on to the reason why I would say most of you all have been watching. So here he is, the big guy himself, the one you've been waiting for, Bluto from the Stormy Seas Ahead 2-pack. Man, oh man. I've only been fooling around with him. I've only been playing around with him for just a few minutes. And I can already tell you that this is next level stuff right here. I don't mean to oversell it here, but this, oh my goodness. I don't think I was adequately prepared for what I was in for with this guy. But you talk about a treat. I don't know about you, but I love it when I get a figure and it's just massive. And not only is it big, but you can feel an incredible amount of weight. This is one of the heaviest figures I own. This thing has to be super heavy. I'm not really sure how heavy, but this thing is like rock solid. If this fell off a shelf and hit you in the head, you'd be going to a doctor. I mean, this guy, there's nothing hollow about him. This is as solid a figure as I possibly own. Not only is he solid, but as you're going to see when we get into the details, there's some really fine tailoring going on here too. Man, I really didn't think that they would knock it out of the park like this, but they have. So let's get into it. First things first, we're just going to look at sculpted detail to begin with. There are two different heads that Bluto includes, and we're just going to start with this one because this is what he's packaged with. The hat is removable, and of course it has a magnet on the inside, just like Popeye's. And the head comes off really easy, so just bear with me as I accidentally pull this thing off. You can see that Bluto has kind of his wisp of hair. And then just like Popeye, he has all those fine details into his folds of skin and kind of that great wash work going on. He has the funny beard that doesn't quite meet his sideburns on the side. We have the huge, like, cartoony looking teeth. Everything about this sculpt just screams Bluto. If you shown me this sculpt in isolation, I could tell you exactly what character it was supposed to be. He might not be as gnarled as Popeye was, but I definitely see a kinship in their design theories. Here's his hat that he comes with, just kind of a peddler's hat. And we just put it on right there. It has a pretty strong magnet, but it's it's not quite as strong as those first Popeye releases. Moving on down, we can see that Bluto has a nice shirt. And when I say nice, I mean they were actually able to do a real folded collar. They're not cheating anything here. And it looks really nice. It actually looks like a real shirt. And I guess it's afforded the luxury of being so much larger that they can do a little bit more like complex tailoring stuff. You can see that these look like very real buttons, but they're not. They're just little vinyl tampographic details that are applied. But I'm telling you, the way that they catch the light, I mean, I would swear that they were real. So good for them on that one. You can see that they've actually dirtied up the front of the shirt, and it definitely looks authentic to how a shirt would actually kind of get befilthied, I guess, if you were in kind of a rough fight of some sort. Bluto appears to be wearing a white undershirt under this. I would hate to try to remove this and try to see what's under it and all that. I don't want to mess it up. I like how the dirty segments accentuate the muscle. That's really cool. Moving on down, Bluto is wearing some really wild yellow pants. I think him and Juggernaut from Deadpool 2 are shopping at the same store. I like it. It's what I would definitely call like a banana looking kind of yellow. I think it's coming across more yellow than it actually is like on my camera. It's a little more light and a little more khaki-like in person. But I love all of these crazy kind of greased up details, almost like he's been working in a body shop of some sort. There's a really cool sculpted belt that looks very real, but this is just a solid sculpted piece. And they even have on belt loops that go all the way around. Now that is some great detail. Pockets sewn onto the back. We actually have hems at the bottom of the pants. I mean, this is the complete package when it comes to tailoring. And then finally, we end with these really cool little boots. And when I say little, maybe that's the wrong word. These things are huge. It looks like Bluto's wearing a size 24, I think, in these. I mean, look at the great detail on this. You can see all the leather work. There's treads at the bottom of the shoes that actually look like some boots I own. So there's just a lot going on here. And on the back of the shirt, we also have that kind of dirt buildup as well. Before we talk about his articulation, I do want you to get an idea of how big this guy is. It's worth noting that Popeye is a little shorter than your average Mezco figure, but still, I want you to see this massive size difference. Bluto, if he were a real person, I suppose Bluto would be like 7 or 8 feet tall here. So I definitely want you to see that kind of size difference and how great it's going to look once you have these guys going toe-to-toe. Before we look at articulation, it is worth noting that Bluto does come with an alternate head sculpt. Just like Popeye, he has a beat-up head sculpt, and I absolutely love this. This guy looks so dazed, and he has one eye that's just barely open. The other one is swollen shut. He doesn't look like he's quite as worse for wear as Popeye does, because Popeye actually has painted on kind of purpley-looking damage. But then again, Bluto is 10 times bigger than Popeye, so it also looks like he is missing some teeth on the front there. And I just love how this turned out. They got some great wash work and all the lines in the face. Of course, the hair has kind of a hint of brown to it as well. So they went 10 times further than they ever actually had to go for this. I love this thing. While poor old Bluto is dazed from his battle with Popeye, we will go ahead and see what kind of articulation the guy has. All right, first off, the head can turn all the way around, so you can do a 360 with it. You can get a little bit of side to side right there. You can go up about that high. You can go down about that low. But that's pretty much it for Bluto's head. He doesn't have the same kind of crazy range as Popeye because his neck isn't like a separate piece like Popeye's is. So that's plenty enough, though, for a character like this. Next up, we do have the arms, and they can go out just about as far as Popeye's can, and maybe even a little further, actually. So you can actually get above 90 degrees with that. I think that's great, because I really wasn't expecting much from this guy because of his massive size. Of course, it can go 360, but with the clothing and all that, you would have to kind of, you see how I'm working the shirt like that? You kind of have to move it around the arm as you go up to make sure you're not getting any tears or anything like that. But it does feel pretty sturdy. Next up, he does have a single jointed elbow. At least I'm pretty sure it's single jointed. You can't really actually see what's going on right here. If it's double jointed, I don't know. And it really wouldn't matter because the shirt would be getting into the double joint. It can't go tremendously inward, and you can't even really get 90 degrees. That's about the limit. But you do get a swivel there. Also, the wrist does have a hinge, so you can go really far out and really far in with the fist. It, of course, swivels all the way around. Now, with the chest, it's a little harder to figure out what's going on the inside. I can't swear to this. I'm not 100% sure. But without taking the shirt off, there'd be no way to really tell, and I'm not doing that. But I don't think there's any kind of articulation in here. I think this is all solid piece. But I think that instead of having a kind of hinge in here, what they've done is they've moved all that down to the waist. So it hinges down at the waist, and it can go down a little bit. It can go back quite a ways. So I think that's pretty effective for him to be such a large figure. I think that concessions like that are fairly understandable. You can even get a little bit, maybe, of side to side, but it's not too much. It's mostly designed to go backwards and forwards like that. You can almost hear it creaking right now. Also, at the legs don't go up tremendously far. It's a lot because of the pants. It's almost like it's pulling on it after a while. But here's what I've been able to do with the leg. I can get a kick about like that. And this is really tight, by the way. So there we go. It's a little bit of a struggle. He can get a pretty good splits, though. And about that far, which is about as much as I think Bluto could ever do. That's a workout. Keep this up, I'll have those Popeye arms, man. He also has a single joint knee, and it really doesn't do too much. You can pretty much get it to look like he's stepping a little bit. And because of how thick the thighs are there, you're not going to be able to get much more than that anyway. So it looks like that we're just working with a ball joint in here. You can get some pretty good motion that way, pretty good motion down. It goes to the side a little bit, but it is just a dumbbell joint. There's no hinge or anything like that. So it's probably good enough to get some of the poses that you need, but you're not going to be able to do like Marvel Legends stuff with the ankles. Also, it popped out on me a second ago, and it was kind of hard to get it back in, actually. And I'm still not sure that it's not just going to pop out all the time on me like this one. This one's okay, but this one's the one I worry about. So I may have to like reinforce that a little bit on my own a little bit later. But for right now, it appears to be staying in there okay. But we do get a little bit of rotation this way and a little bit of up and down. So you're not going to be able to do a really big, crazy amount of stuff with it. But for holding wide stances, you can see the figure balances just fine. So it's not really going to be much of an issue. Now, saying that, though, if you look at the feet, they're not exactly flat to the ground. They're more kind of angled out a little bit. But if you work on the thigh rotation, and you kind of get them situated, you can get them pretty flat to the ground without really having to do too much. The waist can swivel all the way around if you want it to, but since the shirt is actually tucked in, I wouldn't go all the way around if I were you. We'll give Bluto back his dignity up here with his hat. So overall, there are definitely some restrictions with the articulation. I think there's plenty enough articulation to get some of the kind of big bruiser poses you would want to get out of this guy, but you're not going to get the same kind of range that you get out of Popeye. With a piece like this is more about showing the raw power. Bluto comes with some pretty extreme accessories, so let's go ahead and get right into it. First things first, I would say the least exciting accessory is Bluto doesn't actually get a unique stand, so we'll get the worst out of the way. he actually gets exactly what Popeye had. I understand that these guys are supposed to be a set and they're both kind of nautically themed, but just having the exact same, and I understand why the flight stand is the same, but having the same design on the stand is kind of unfortunate, and I kind of wish they'd went that extra mile. But in terms of his other accessories, there's some really cool stuff here. For one thing, we get these really cool alternate hands, and I didn't really spend any time on Popeye's because we knew what was up. But these, look at the nails on this. I don't think I've ever seen more realistic human nails painted before on a hand, and that grime on them. Like, this is really cool, and it's on every single hand like this. So I think these are awesome, and these hands are huge, by the way. So this is just kind of an open, like, I'm gonna get you kind of hand. And then we have the gripping hand right here. And once again, it has all the same detail that we pointed out with the other. So let's go ahead and see how easy it is to switch these guys out. Get this first hand off of here, and hopefully it's not too difficult. Or, whew, that took a little bit more force than I'm used to with a Mezco figure, and I can see why now. Check this out. We have a much thicker wrist peg than we have ever seen before for any of these figures. I don't think you have to worry about this one snapping on you, considering it's just about the same width as the actual wrist sculpt of a lot of Mezco figures. So, okay, that actually wasn't too bad to put that one on anyway, but it did take a little oomph to take it off. So now that we have the open hand, what can go in there? He comes with this giant cartoony monkey wrench. And yes, we've got some cold cast kind of metal right here. And this is so cool. I was really hoping this wouldn't just be like straight up plastic. I guess I didn't read the product description very carefully. Maybe they already said it was. But this is so neat that it's an actual like metal, like kind of die cast accessory that he comes with. So let's go ahead and see how that looks in the hand. And right away, I'll tell you that you're going to have to flex the hand open a little bit to get this guy to fit. And then go to the thinner part up here where you can actually get a grip. And that looks really cool. And I love that it's this kind of over-exaggerated, sort of cartoony looking thing. And it just looks awesome with them. Look at that. Yeah, it's going to be hard for me to not just have that in his hand all the time. Speaking of cartoony, exaggerated accessories, though, he comes with this 300-pound like dumbbell weight. And this thing is actually made out of like that cold cast, like kind of steel sort of a die cast feeling stuff. This thing is freezing cold in my hands, and this is so heavy. Like, this is ridiculously heavy for this thing. I want to see if Bluto can actually support this thing, because this is a really, really solid piece. So once again, we'll just take this and try to flex the hand open. And can he do it? We'll see. Yeah, he's actually holding it really well. And I think part of that is because the engineering on the figure is very, very, very strong. And you might have noticed it earlier when I was doing the articulation, but I was really actively struggling to move some of those joints around the hips. So it's no wonder that he's able to support all this weight from these actual metal accessories, because they have designed him that way. He's definitely engineered that way. So very nice surprise. Love this thing. This is really cool. It's so heavy that part of me doesn't really want to put it in his hand and just like leave it like that, if you get what I mean. I'm afraid that it's gonna come loose, or if it falls, it'll like bust, or it'll bust a part of my floor even. So I'm not sure how well this would do with like porcelain tiles. I just don't know. I do like that it actually has 300 pounds inscribed on it. Kind of just a fun cartoony detail. And there's some cool sculpting all the way around on this. So really like this. This is awesome. Oh yeah, that's perfect. I love Streetcar Named Desire sort of looking Bluto here with the hat. There we go. Let's get it. Yeah, I could have been somebody. I could have been a contender. I'm sorry. I'll never do that again. I apologize. Please don't unsubscribe. And now we're going to come to the secret accessory that a lot of people didn't know that the figure would come with, and I think they were very excited to find out about it. So I'm very pleased to show this to you. A plastic 112 collective bag that you keep. I'm just kidding, okay? We know that comes with it. But here's the one that I think was a surprise to a lot of us. It was certainly a surprise to me. Maybe other people knew about it. We get this really cool giant leather jacket to put on Bluto. So yeah, let's get this thing on there. It's going to be interesting with this guy being so big and not being very flexible in some ways, if this is going to be like a nightmare to put on. So let's find out. Oh, actually, that wasn't too bad at all. I'm happy to say that they actually gave plenty of room in the shoulders and in the sleeves to where it did not feel stressful. I didn't feel unpleasant at all. I'm just able to kind of, as you can see, just finesse the sleeves out a little bit there. Got them turned around for the big reveal. And here we are. We get Hoodlum Bluto right here with his leather biker jacket. I think this is awesome. Bluto, he was already an intimidating enough looking figure. Then you add this jacket to it, man. And this with the hat and everything. And this guy is a bruiser. I mean, look at this. It looks terrific from the back. It looks even better from the front with all the details and the buttons and things. He almost goes from being a Popeye comic strip character to being like a Sin City character in one fell swoop right here. Especially when you put it with the big giant monkey wrench over here. You've got a really, really threatening look for the character. Absolutely love this, and I think it goes great and contrasts well with the yellow pants, goes well with the blue hat. I just think visually this is like Mezco's A-game right here, guys. Like, this is intense. I have to say, this is awesome. See this guy coming at you? Got the hook in the hand right there. Might be time to come up with a new strategy. Hopefully you got plenty of spinach on hand, though. I guess it is comparison time. So we're going to put him against his white-suited Popeye rival from the MDX line. They look terrific together. Here, of course, is the standard Popeye. They look awesome. And here we have the actual included Popeye with the set. You can see that I'm using his battle-damaged head. He is challenging Bluto to come a little bit closer. And in interest of making it look as though they have been in combat, we're going to take Bluto and switch out to his battle-damaged head as well. And then you have a proper bruise up right here. Look at that. This is going to be an absolutely epic set for you to have on your shelf. Not only do they look great together, but this definitely celebrates that Popeye legacy that we've been seeing with the other sets. You can do all sorts of cool things with him in terms of your nautical display options. Of course, if you keep some toy boats around like I do, and I think I've seen several of these that people use in their display, but once you have these guys together, they're going to be an impressive presence on your shelf. And the display options here are pretty limitless, especially considering that not only does Bluto have this jacket, but Popeye also has his rain gear as well. So if there's any way that you can still get a hold of this guy, I definitely suggest that you try to pick him up. There's just an endless amount of fun that you can have with this set, and I cannot wait to see how I incorporate Bluto into my Popeye display. As always, we want to thank each and every one of you for participating in our channel, for liking, subscribing, and of course commenting on the videos. Of course, we're excited to hear from each and every one of you in the comments below, so please drop us a line. We do want to thank you for helping us to meet a major milestone recently. We finally passed that 1,000 subscribers mark. I know it's not a huge number, but it means a lot to us. If you'd love to help see the channel grow, that's all that we ask. Just keep watching our videos, keep liking, commenting, and of course, if you haven't yet, we'd love for you to subscribe so that you can check out all of the new Mezco reviews and the many other types of reviews we do here on the channel. Guys, stick around till the end of the video. You'll see a great gallery of images. And as always, be careful out there, guys. Be safe. God bless each and every one of you, and I'll see you on Fanboys Forever.